She sang at a Jinn's wedding, and none of the guests were human. My name is Noura, and this is what happened to me in the summer of 1997 in Kuwait. I was 35 then, at the very peak of my singing career. My voice was my everything, and the wedding band I led was the one every family wanted, because when we performed, the celebration became unforgettable. In the Gulf, wedding singers are like stars in our own world. It was one of those unbearable summer evenings. I had just come home from another gig, exhausted, the heat still clinging to my skin, 45 degrees Celsius, over 113 Fahrenheit, the kind where even the steering wheel of the car can burn your palms. I was barely through the door when the landline rang. No mobiles back then, just those heavy home phones. The man on the other end spoke in the most formal, classical Arabic, the kind you rarely heard anymore. He said his daughter was getting married and that he had heard I was the best. Could my band and I perform in 3 weeks? I checked my schedule. The date was free. We agreed on the fee, good money, half up front as always. Then he gave me the address, far outside the city, past the 6th ring road toward Hijrah, another 20 kilometers beyond the farms. Someone would meet us at a water tower to guide us the rest of the way. It sounded remote, but not impossible. The old wealthy families, the ones whose money came from pearls and trade long before oil, still held their weddings on huge private estates, away from gossip and eyes. I didn't think too much of it. 2 days later, an envelope of cash arrived, no return address. Unusual, but some families guard their privacy fiercely. 3 weeks passed quickly. We rehearsed all the classic Khaliji songs, the traditional Gulf melodies from Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the UAE that no wedding could be without. My band was my family. Mayam on drums, Fatima and Sarah on backup vocals, and young Hassan who handled all our equipment. We had been together 7 years and our reputation was flawless. The day came. We loaded everything into 2 cars, my Land Cruiser and Hassan's pickup, and left just before sunset. We drove north on the Jafra road. The city lights slowly disappeared behind us, turning into suburbs, then scattered farms, then nothing but desert. The water tower rose exactly where he said it would, a huge concrete shape against the darkening sky. A man was waiting, dressed in a white dishdasha and red-checked gutra, his face half hidden in the low light. He motioned for us to follow and climbed into an old Mercedes from the 70s, yet it gleamed like it had just left the showroom. We turned off the main road onto faint tire tracks in the sand. Layla, sitting beside me, shifted nervously. "This is really far out," she whispered. I told her rich people love their space, but I felt it too. That tight knot in my stomach telling me something wasn't quite right. We drove through the dunes for half an hour in almost complete darkness. The Kuwaiti desert is so flat at night you lose all sense of direction. Then, suddenly, the mansion appeared. It was enormous, built in the old Kuwaiti style with wind towers and vast courtyards, far larger than any home needed to be. Every window glowed with light, as if it had been waiting for us. It looked perfectly kept, rising straight out of the sand. The Mercedes vanished around the back, and our guide was gone before I could even thank him. A woman met us at the door, completely veiled in the old way you almost never saw by the 90s. She led us through corridors lined with Persian carpets and brass lanterns, past rooms filled with cushions and low tables heavy with dates and Arabic coffee. The air was thick with bukhor, traditional incense, so strong it almost stung my eyes. She showed us to a large open courtyard. A proper stage was already set up with outlets and everything we needed. "The bride arrives at midnight," she said. "Begin warming up at 10:30. Then she was gone, before I could ask anything. We set up while the women changed into our performance dresses, heavy embroidery, rich jewel tones, hair piled high, full stage makeup. Hassan got the sound system running. During the sound check around 10 o'clock, my voice echoed strangely, as if the courtyard was both too vast and too small at once. I told myself it was just the acoustics. At 10:30, the guests started arriving. They simply appeared. One moment, a section of the courtyard was empty. The next, a group of people was there, stepping out of doorways or around corners. Women in traditional dress, men in white dishdashas. In 20 minutes, the place was packed. 300 people, maybe more. I nodded to my band, and we began with the traditional welcome song. The crowd loved it, loud ululation, clapping, and they started dancing. But something felt wrong from the very first moment. Their enthusiasm was too much, their movements too fluid, too perfectly synchronized. I glanced at Layla. She was playing mechanically, staring at nothing. By 11:30 I could no longer pretend. The way they moved wasn't human. Joints bent in ways that looked subtly impossible. They danced without ever stopping to breathe, to talk, to drink, repeating the same hypnotic patterns over and over until my head ached just watching. Guests came to the stage with tips and congratulations, the way they always do. But when the first woman pressed money into my hand, her skin was burning hot, like metal left in the sun, and hard, leathery, nothing like human skin. She smiled with teeth too white and went back to dancing. I looked across at Fatima. Her face had gone pale beneath the makeup, her hands trembling on the microphone. She had felt it too. I gave her the smallest shake of my head. Don't react, keep going. Midnight came and went. No bride appeared. The dancing only grew wilder, more perfectly in unison. My throat was raw, but I kept singing, years of training carrying me forward, even as fear coiled inside my chest. Beside me, Mayam pounded the drums with her jaw clenched so tight I thought it might crack. Then, sometime after midnight, I never knew exactly when, the incense smoke seemed to thicken and I saw. Their legs ended in dark cloven hooves, like goats or sheep, moving with an animal's unnatural grace. When they raised their arms, their fingers were too long, tapering to sharp points, nails shining like horn. But their faces, those were still human, smiling, laughing human faces on bodies that were no longer anything close to human. That was the worst part. Sora's voice broke completely. She stopped singing, stood frozen with her mouth open. Hassan at the soundboard looked like he might collapse. Only Layla, Mayam, Fatima and I kept going, pure muscle memory and discipline holding us together. The things danced harder, as if they didn't notice or didn't care that we were falling apart. I sang with tears running down my face, ruining my makeup, my voice cracking. Time stopped meaning anything. Each song felt like it lasted hours. My whole world became just the next note, the next breath, refusing to scream, refusing to run. Then, at what my watch later said was 3 a.m., every light went out. Complete darkness, deep desert darkness, where you can't see your own hand in front of your face. The music stopped without any of us deciding it. Our hands simply fell still. Silence followed, total and unnatural. No breathing, no footsteps, only the faint rustle of fabric. The temperature dropped so suddenly my sweat turned to ice on my skin. I saw my breath misting in front of me. Frost formed on the microphone in my fingers. Yalla! Yalla! Layla's voice cut through the dark, raw with terror. We ran. We left everything, instruments, equipment, purses, shoes, and ran blindly. My heels caught on a carpet. I kicked them off and kept going barefoot. The corridors twisted and stretched, multiplying in ways that made no sense, the mansion impossibly huge inside. Then suddenly, we were outside. Open desert, stars above, the far-off glow of Kuwait City showing us the way home. We reached the cars, hands shaking so badly we could barely get the keys in. Both engines started. Thank God, and we drove into the darkness without headlights, navigating by moonlight until we reached the main road. We didn't stop until we saw the water tower again, then pulled into a petrol station as dawn broke. Under the harsh fluorescent lights we looked at each other, makeup smeared with tears, hands still trembling, eyes empty. No one spoke. What words could there possibly be? The next day I went to the police. An officer drove me back out there. The water tower was there. The track was there. Even our tire marks from the night before were still visible in the sand. But where the mansion had stood, there was only empty desert, undisturbed sand, a few rocks, some dry plants. No foundation, no ruins, no sign anything had ever been built there. The officer was kind, but he thought heat exhaustion, stress, maybe a cruel prank. I knew better. We all knew. I searched old records, newspaper archives, property files. Finally, in dusty historical documents, I found it. A mansion exactly matching the one I had seen had stood in that spot. Abandoned in 1987, 10 years before I ever set foot there. The phone number was disconnected. There was no record of anyone delivering the money. It was as if none of it had ever happened. I never performed again. I was only 35, at the height of everything I had worked for. People asked why I retired so suddenly. I gave vague answers about family, about the schedule being too much. Those who knew me well saw the truth in my eyes, but they didn't press. The story spread anyway. Kuwait is small and stories travel. Some said I had sung for ghosts, others called it a hoax, but the people who truly knew me believed. I know now what we stumbled into. Jinn are real, created from smokeless fire, living alongside us but hidden, with their own lives, their own marriages, their own celebrations. Sometimes the worlds touch, and humans find themselves where they should never be. There are rules, I learned later. Be respectful, accept their hospitality, and fulfill it. Do not insult them, do not panic, do not leave until dismissed. By continuing to sing, by finishing what we had been hired to do, even as everything twisted around us, perhaps we accidentally followed those rules. They let us go, alive, but forever changed. The mansion is gone, swallowed by the desert again. The sands around Kuwait keep many secrets, and the old nomads know we are not the only ones who celebrate beneath the stars. Sometimes the Jinn hold their weddings too, and when they call for musicians, they expect to be entertained. I live quietly now in Kuwait City with my family. I hum old songs to my grandchildren sometimes, but I never sing for crowds again. I never drive toward Hijrah. I never answer calls from numbers I don't recognize. And every August, when the air grows thick with heat and desert dust, I lock my doors at sunset and burn incense until dawn, praying that whatever still dances in that empty place has forgotten the singer who once performed for them. Some invitations should never be accepted. Alright mates, I've just finished reading Nora's story, and subhanallah, it really made me sit back and reflect. You know how people always say, these Jinn stories are just made up, like it's some undeniable exaggeration, like it's all folklore with no basis in truth? Well, Nora's story proves just how wrong that narrative can be. This wasn't a woman who went there looking for trouble. She went expecting a normal wedding gig, good pay, a private family event. That's what everyone in her line of work did back then. But what she found instead, mashallah, it was a reminder of the unseen world. And that hit home for me too. As someone who grew up hearing these stories from family in Libya similar to our brothers in the Gulf, every single time someone dismisses Jinn as superstition, I remember what it says in the Quran. And I did not create the Jinn and mankind except to worship me. They're real, wallahi. They have free will, just like us. Some are Muslim, some are not. They marry, they celebrate, and sometimes, rarely, alhamdulillah, our worlds overlap. So when Nora kept performing, even as terror gripped her heart, fulfilling the contract without panicking or insulting them, and they let her and her band leave alive, subhanallah, it shows the mercy of Allah. Perhaps by staying respectful, reciting what little protection she could in her mind, she followed the unspoken rules without knowing. Allah protected them. I couldn't agree more with the lesson. There are invitations you should never accept blindly. And in this dunya, we're surrounded by the unseen, so protect yourself with your daily prayers. Strengthening your deen isn't about fear alone. It's about turning towards something better, something purer, something that might actually help you hold on to your faith in these testing times. For those interested in Hijrah, Hijrah isn't about running away. It's about turning towards something better, something cleaner, something that might actually help you build the kind of life you've been begging Allah for in your sujood. That's why I put together something I hope will benefit you. 5 practical steps to plan your Hijrah. A Muslim's guide to a faithful new start. It's simple, and it's written for brothers and sisters who are ready to stop talking and start planning. Link is below. Grab your copy, inshallah. And if Nora's story reminded you of your own encounters, your own fears, or maybe stories from your family, share your story with me on my Instagram. More powerful reminders and stories coming soon, inshallah.